it used to be that having a bachelor's degree was a huge deal. It was a really big deal to have a bachelor's degree, a college degree, just a basic college degree. And it would get you such a higher level of income and way
Yeah,
better job options. And now then it became having a master's degree is a big deal, right? And now then it, well, not even now, but then it became a PhD is a big deal. And now I'm hearing people tell me that even having a PhD isn't a big deal anymore. That companies don't even, it's not even as big of a deal as it used to be. So it's like, so then people are like, some people are saying, why don't you get your PhD? And I'm like, it'd be cool to have a PhD. I'm not gonna lie, it'd be awesome, to have the doctor title and all that stuff, and to have maybe to learn more, to get deeper into the different things.
yeah, to do
But then
research
I
or
then I
something.
question it. Then I'm saying, but what benefit would I really? What practical benefit would I get out of a PhD?
Welcome back to the Out of the Box podcast, where Steele and I, Jose, your host, get to talk about outside of the box ideas. Today, we're going to be talking about the education system. Is it worth it to get a degree nowadays, a bachelor's, or what type of education is worth it? Now we have online learning, so that's really getting very popular, and a lot of people are making an income online, learning from these tutorials. And so we also want to see the correlation of what we're gonna be having in these next couple months. A lot of experts say that there's a recession coming, and so we want to see how learning and preparing yourself and educating yourself can help you during this time of recession. um, Hopefully we don't get a depression, and so we'll kind of explain a little bit more in a little bit. But before we get started, I want to just invite you guys, if this is the first time you're watching our podcast, this is a podcast that really looks to speak truth. We do research in different areas. We bring in hosts from different fields of study, specifically PhD professors, but also different common people who just have some knowledge in a specific area. And we like to have philosophical talks about whatever topic we have of the day. So if you would like to subscribe to our channel, we would definitely like to have you on this journey. This is something that we've started almost a year ago from now, and we're looking to continue doing this for a very long time. So we would like to have you and get to know you a little bit more as well. So without further ado, Steele, so we're in this time where online learning is growing. We're seeing the educational cost go up, right? People are having to take more loans out for school. um Scholarships are out there, which makes it affordable, but not a lot of people are applying. There's is education in the college system worth it? I mean, what are your thoughts? What, or yeah, initial thoughts?
Yeah, um, there's a lot of things. I mean, I think you mentioned that college admissions are going down before we started this podcast. And
Yeah.
so like it's not just us. It's hitting a lot of people. Or maybe people are. There could be several things. Like maybe people are kind of waking up. Is one way to look at it. That people are waking up to the idea of like maybe college is college worth it. Is college the only way to get a decent career, a decent income? Not to say it's always all about money, but money is a big factor that plays into that. But then also another thing to think about is that, from what I remember reading somewhere, is that tuition prices have been going up in recent years. The price of college, that means the price of college has been going up in recent years. And so, and then student loans, people are owning a ton of student loans. And like, I think just people seeing other people struggle with student loans, or just all of that together just makes people more skeptical of whether it's worth it. Not skeptical of whether college works, I guess, but
Yeah,
maybe skeptical of whether it's worth it. And so, yeah, I think to answer that question of whether it's, what I think about it, I think for me personally, do I regret going to college? Do I regret the student loans? No, not really. Like, I don't think I do, because it did, because of course, first of all, I always wanted to go to college just because of, like, I guess the gifts that I have found myself with, that yearning for knowledge, and yearning for learning, and being able to learn quick. I'm glad that I did because it did help me write better. It helped me form arguments better, philosophy and all that stuff. And that goes a long way in different jobs. Being able to think for yourself, that's great. Just having that degree where I can have more job opportunities is great. Being able to have, even the master's degree and have even other job opportunities other than my bachelor's is good. Um, but I think it does depend. It depends to answer that. It depends on which degree you choose, because certain degrees I think people are learning are kind of throwaway degrees, like college degrees that really can't get you a job or they just don't pay that well. So that's
Yeah. Yeah. You go into a field that ends up, only paying 30,000 or, whatever amount. And it's just so seems like it's not the ROI doesn't seem to match, right? Spending so many years uh, studying and schooling, and then unless it's a vocational aspect that one's really passionate about something, in terms of financial gains, potentially it's not that great. Maybe personal goals that people have could fulfill that, right? Somebody could get a degree in theology or anthropology, and perhaps the career jobs that you could find within that are not as great. um but maybe it's a passion, right? So like you said, it probably depends, right? Maybe some, like you said, I'm in the same boat. We both went to college, and I don't regret having gone to college. Thankfully, I worked really hard and paid off my student loans while being in college. But well, actually, no, I didn't take out any loans. But like the balance that I had to pay, um, I just like worked like three jobs, and did 18 hours. So it's just craziness. But it's a great experience because got to learn from great professors that gave me a better understanding of the world, right? And to some degree, like I even noticed the difference going back home and seeing how I could express myself and articulate myself was
same.
much different than before, right? And sometimes, yeah, maybe if I would have started working right after high school, I would have had just like the experience and more like street smart, right? But I think I think it provided an opportunity to develop myself a little bit further. And so I think to that degree, it was good. Um, but the question does arise, right? If somebody is looking to make a certain amount of money, it almost seems like they have to go through years and years of studying, right? Maybe PhD professors have to get almost 10 years of studies to get there sometimes, or seven to 10. And so depending on the field, um, so that's sometimes seems like a very long time. And then unless it's a passion that one has to do that, sometimes doesn't seem to match up, right? In terms of financial gains, right? We could talk about more in financial gains. It's
Yeah.
not always the most important thing in life, right? But if one's trying to get an ROI of their education, that's something to look at, right?
Yeah, and
Because
that's true.
it
Yeah.
does seem like colleges now are selling not just education, but mainly an experience, right? Because education so readily available online now that people can learn from Steve how to invest in crypto or whatever. And so there's so many courses out there that one can easily pick up the knowledge. But I think it's really the experience that they're providing, the environment to foster ideas, is something that's interesting, right? And certainly it's, I think, what holds people going to college. And I think we saw it during the pandemic. It was really hard to get college admission. Students didn't want to do online learning because what are they paying for? They're really paying for the
Yeah,
experience
and a lot of people are
in
upset
person.
because, like, why didn't the colleges reduce the cost of tuition? You know, like that's I don't know if I mean I don't know everything about it, but
Yeah,
some of them did. I don't know, but I remember hearing complaints or something like, why should college charge the same amount of money when it's online? You know, you're paying the same price for less valuable what you're getting. But to go to that other some of the points you were making, I really think it depends on the degree. Like, if, for example, if you're going to get a law degree and you're going to become a lawyer, or you're going to get a medical doctor certification and become a doctor, or go in the medical field, or related fields, big fields like that, then yeah, probably a college degree is worth it in terms of
you
income.
can
It's not
justify it.
a huge difference. Now, if it's something like a business degree, it's kind of risky. It could go really well, but then what if you're unable to start the business that you wanted to start, and then that degree becomes something that you just owe a whole bunch of student debt on, unless you have a good scholarship, unless you get free college for whatever circumstances, unique circumstances, or you pay for it. That's different. So that's why it's so complicated. But then there's certain degrees where it's like there's one that I heard about, underwater knitting. Like, there's a degree in underwater knitting, and it's like, you know, I don't see what jobs are gonna come out of that. Rich people who can just doesn't money doesn't matter to, yeah, that's one thing. But if you're going to that expecting a job, a good decent income, yeah, that's scary. And I think that's what a lot of people are realizing is, like, with certain degrees like philosophy, like, I would love to get a degree in philosophy, but at the same time, I've heard many people say you can't get any good decent income for a philosophy degree. You can't find
Yeah.
jobs for it. So it comes
Yeah,
down.
and sometimes people, and it's very, I think it's so crazy because nowadays I talk to people and the degree that they got, sometimes it's not even what they work on now. They got a degree in music and they're doing business, or they got a degree in, I don't know, art, and they're doing architecture, or maybe a completely different field, like now they're working for a hospital or something like that.
And I've
And
heard
it's
some
like,
people say that they didn't get a college degree and they're making more money than people with college degrees.
yeah,
People say that too. They're like, yeah, we didn't even go to college and we're making so and so much more money and stuff like that. To like, because they say that they were talking about like one of someone they knew went to college and they're comparing them. And yeah, so it's
yeah, I
interesting.
mean, I had a lot of friends during high school that they would say like, hey, I'm just, what I'm going to do, I'm not even going to go to college, I'm just going to go work at a company and become a manager. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start, because that's what we essentially do. Like when we come out of college, we do the entry level jobs, right?
Yeah.
But we already have a bachelor's degree. So people coming out of high school, they do that entry level job during those 4 years or 3 years or 2 years that like somebody is in college. They're getting experience, right? So they have those 2 or 4 years of experience ahead of somebody, going to college. And then at that time, when the person who comes out of college and starts a job, they have to do that entry level job. And then that person that started from high school is already like ahead, right? And a lot of companies we're seeing nowadays, I was talking to my girlfriend in her company as well, they're not requiring college degrees anymore.
Oh,
They're
really?
requiring experience.
I
Yeah.
didn't even know that.
It's
Yeah,
it's it's so crazy,
and that's puts
right? It's
everyone on the same level. That puts college degrees and high school on the same level. It's like
exactly.
that's where
Exactly. It's so it's like it's people want the experience more than a college degree.
And that's interesting because and I've heard many people say this recently to me, like, it used to be that having a bachelor's degree was a huge deal. It was a really big deal to have a bachelor's degree, a college degree, just a basic college degree. And it would get you such a higher level of income and way
Yeah.
better job options. And now then it became having a master's degree is a big deal, right? And now well, not even now, but then it became a PhD is a big deal. And now I'm hearing people tell me that even having a PhD isn't a big deal anymore. That companies don't even, it's not even as big of a deal as it used to be. So it's like, so then people are like, some people are saying, why don't you get your PhD? And I'm like, it'd be cool to have a PhD. I'm not gonna lie, it'd be awesome, to have the doctor title and all that stuff, and to have maybe to learn more, to get different things.
Yeah, to do
But then
research
I
or
then I
something.
question it. Then I'm saying, but what benefit would I really? What practical benefit would I get out of a PhD? You know,
That's what it is.
maybe like is it if it would bump my pay up by like over $10,000, maybe like a ten
Yeah.
thousand dollar plus raise in my income, maybe it's worth it. But then you got to remember, most PhD programs, a lot of them are free and paid for. Yes, not all of them are. So if I were to do it, it would have to be for free. I'd have to make the time for it. I would have to have a job that can work without, and I would have to make enough money. And so there's some sacrifices that go into it, and you really have to think about whether it's worth it. And for me, it's
Yeah.
like unless it's going to be a significant income increase, and like I have to ask what benefits. Otherwise, why do I need to? You know?
Then I can do my own research. Yeah, because and I think you mentioned a really key word, which is practicality, right? Is it practical, right? Because if you learn skills, for example, computer science, which is I think one of the really practical degrees that you can get nowadays. You learn a certain, detailed, right, language or way of creating software or how to connect hardware on a computer. And so you learn practical things that can be applied in the real world. It's not just theory and all this stuff, right? Which is it's good. You can apply those theories in the real world, but sometimes it seems like the more practical uh things of learning, right? Actual uh applicable stuff is what actually raises your paycheck, right? I've seen that a lot of people, I've talked to some business owners and they say that when they're hiring, they really like to see certifications rather than anything else because they know that, oh, they're certified in setting up internet cable, they're certified in Photoshop, or they're certified in whatever.
You know what
So
that is? You know what that is? That's experience. That's
experience. That's what people want. They want to know when they hire someone that they're going to be able to do the job, right? So I talked to it was a long time ago when I was before starting college. I was talking to someone. I was telling them, yeah, I want to do business administration because one day I want to own my own business, and just talking to him about that. And I think he was like, he worked in the medical field or something, and had like a side business or a side hustle. And he was telling me, well, good luck finding a job, with that degree, because and that was like almost 10 years ago now. And
wow.
so I'm starting to see that more and more, like
Yeah.
it's like now you have to get like an
Oh,
MBA and then like plus experience, so it's like an
it's like
MBA
crazy.
plus experience.
Yeah. And it's like a
And so
chain
it's not just the MBA, you have to have the experience.
reaction.
And so
I'm lucky I had parents that were always steering me into the most practical direction. Like they're always warning me, like, make sure you get a degree that has, they're always, challenge me on that. Make sure you can have a job. And I'm glad they did because otherwise, man, who knows what kind of financial trouble I'd be stuck with. I mean, I got student loans right now, but at least I'm moving on. I'm moving up in my career at this moment to where I know I can, take care of myself and like pay
yeah,
for it all, right? So that's good. But the other thing is the chicken or egg argument. And I came across this, kind of even in I think in my field at one point. I'm trying to remember. I remember talking to a professor about this, like certain job I was trying to apply for. I think it was the writing jobs, right? Because we both have, me and you have a bachelor's in communication studies. That means me and you can get jobs in writing, media production, video stuff, audio, whatever, and writing is one of them. And so I was applying for writing jobs, and a lot of them are like, you need 3+ years of experience in writing to just, and I'm like, you know, you, like the reason why I got a bachelor's degree, in this field was so I could get a job in writing. So it's like, what job am I supposed to get this 3 years of experience at if no job will hire me unless I have experience? The chicken or egg, like which one comes first? Like I can't have experience for a job if no writing job will hire me without experience. And
yeah,
that's why I thought that's what the bachelor's degree was for. I thought the bachelor's degree was supposed to
yeah. And then people don't want to hire you because
doesn't
you
make it.
don't have a degree or experience.
Yeah, it makes no sense. How is anyone supposed to get that job then? Because
Yeah.
where
Honestly, it's connections nowadays, man.
And I
Like
got lucky.
it's
I
who you know,
got
how
one.
you get out there.
I'm lucky I got a writing job that, you know, where I didn't need as much experience, and then I've been able to like build experience with that job. And so yeah, I just think that's a real problem. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Recently I had that same situation. I was contemplating the idea of applying for jobs, and so I just started looking out in the marketplace and applying here and there to see what potential there was, just to kind of test the waters a little bit. So I started applying here and there to some positions, and I was just reviewing positions over positions, and it's like, for the jobs that to make the income that I'm making now with my business, like to make the same income, it's like it's hard. There's
Oh, really?
nothing out there, um, because it's so crazy. But the wages for uh for jobs sometimes it's not that great. And I think one of the things that we were going to touch on is the recession and
Yeah, big.
like making ends meet. Like prices are going up, gas is going up, houses are going up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
People can't make a living off of
Yeah.
like
How
their income anymore,
the thing is, like
so
everyone,
they have to work two jobs.
and the thing is, everyone is struggling right now, like everyone. But I think it's sad because the people that are struggling the most are the lower class, like the ones stuck in poverty, and it's a shame. But the big thing about gas, man, my gas is almost at $5 right now. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 weeks from now gas is at $5, and I wouldn't be surprised if it keeps going up higher because I heard people talking about, and I don't know, I don't know much about this, guys. Take my words with a grain of salt, but I read stuff online every now and again, and I heard that gas stations were actually, for the first time in history, or maybe the first time in a long time, actually setting the numbers for double digits in terms of like $10 and up for gas, because they've always just done single, right? Because gas has never been $10 as far as I know. And so they're doing that for the first time because they're anticipating gas to go up to $10 at some point. And it's
Wow.
like, how can anyone survive? How can anyone afford that? And then on top of that, like you said, inflation with the prices of just groceries, not just groceries, everything is going up. So how do people afford to live? And people are joking around like, we're just working at jobs to make gas money, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how people survive.
Yeah, it's well, I I think that this is one of the things that even if they taught this in college, it would be great. I think Kathy Lehman Meyer did. She was a professor there, St. Mary's, that taught us some basic, just life skills for the real world before we graduated. But it's just like, why aren't people talking about this? Why aren't people teaching others how to do their budgeting, how to save, where to save, how to create an IRA, how to prepare for retirement,
Yeah.
all this stuff that, a lot of people don't know coming out of college,
Yeah, and
right? And so it's like
you have that class.
we have to be prepared for this world. And that's maybe another thing about your um ROI, like your return on investment. Like, is there something practical that we can learn
Yeah,
that can be applied in the real world, right? Because we come out and people have, these people have loans that they don't even understand what they're
yeah,
taking out,
yeah.
and they have so much debt, and they don't know how to budget, they don't know how to pay it off, they don't know how to get a job. And so
Yeah.
it's like, what are we teaching?
And there's
What
a
are
debt crisis. There's a debt crisis in America. There's a lot of people in debt, whether it's
Yeah.
house debt, credit card debt, because so many people, because financial literacy just isn't very strong for a lot of people. And and a lot of people are fighting for trying to get more financial literacy, like you're talking about, in schools, in high school, in college. Because me and you, I don't know if you took that class with her, with like about what was it about? It was about like writing cover letters and
Yeah,
stuff
and
like
the
that.
elevator pitch, and
Elevator pitch, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're talking about. Practical skill.
yeah. And like, if we could have more of those classes, that would be great.
Even just one.
But I don't think all majors have that.
That's
Uh,
the problem. And so then why not put it into a high school? Why not make it a requirement, and where like it's like a class about financial literacy, but it's also about how to get a job. Like, wouldn't that be the most important class to take? I mean,
yeah.
everyone would benefit from that.
And maybe it's also a cultural thing because, sometimes um, a lot of lower income communities, they kind of stay cyclically in the lower brackets just because that education never gets inherited because it's never learned, right? And so if one never learns that you can start saving 5 6 thousand a year, and if you do that for 30 40 years, you could potentially be a millionaire, and people don't know that. It's like, whoa, there's something that I'm not doing that other people are. And so it's sometimes like having the curiosity to study, study the wealthy, study like people who actually invest their money. And sometimes there's almost a little bit of ignorance too, right? That it's like, oh well, rich people are bad, rich people don't do good in this world, and I don't want to be like them, so I'm not going to learn anything about them. And it's sometimes like, well, they're just playing the system. They learn how to play the system, and they're just rolling with it. And so sometimes it just takes a little bit of education. And now with the internet, there's so much information out there that, if you knock on the right doors, you can find ways to start saving and maybe even investing as well. Because, you know, during this recession, a lot of people say that during recessions is when a lot of the rich get richer because the assets and things lower in price, right? They go down in price because nobody can buy them, and so only the wealthy who can buy those assets will purchase things at a very low price, knowing that they will go up again. And so they'll just buy it when it's really low or people are very desperate. And this is one of the things that I'm really passionate about because right now a lot of this upcoming recession is going to be probably the greatest transfer of wealth in probably maybe all America. And that you can, like you said, take my words for a grain of salt, but the biggest amount of businesses or even small businesses are owned by baby boomers, which right now they're retiring. And so there's thousands of baby boomers retiring a day, right? And what does this mean? That these baby boomers, I think there was a statistic that they own like 27 to 30% of all businesses are retiring. So 27 to 30% of businesses are being put in the market right now, but nobody is buying them because they don't know how to buy, they don't know how to run a business, and they don't know that you could actually finance it just like a house. But this is actually going to be kicking back money to your pocket. And so with this recession that's coming up, I think it's, prices are gonna go lower. Baby boomers, they want to sell, they want to sell their businesses. They're scavenging to retire. And so these 30% of businesses are gonna be at a sale price, right? It's gonna be like sale price. And so I just think it's gonna be so crazy. There's gonna be so many opportunities. And so it's like you were saying, not now it's say the analogy of the glass half full, half empty, right? We can see it like, hey, we're gonna have a tough time, or hey, we're gonna actually find a way to maybe save up some cash so I can maybe invest a little bit in whatever capacity I can, right? Maybe in stocks that a lot of people might sell, right? Because during a recession is people who get into investing will learn that there's like blue chip companies that are like a little bit more safe, and usually those tend to continue going up pretty steadily. And so when prices go down for those, it's like people are wanting to buy those because they know that the market will continue to go up again, and so they'll buy them at a really low price. And so just learning little things like that and learning how to invest, and I think it's probably the one of the best ways to prepare um, for recessions like this. But going back to education, these are things that sometimes we just don't learn because our parents don't know them, so they can't inherit those things. So we look to college and to high school to really teach us how to maneuver and what to do with our money and with our assets. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
And the recession's scary, and I think, I'm sure
Mm,
we'll get through it. I like to be optimistic. Like, I don't think it's the end of the world. Uh, you know, then there's economists I hear talking about, like, the possibility of the worst, that this is like could be the worst one yet economically, because they mentioned the term stagflation, which is basically when inflation goes up really high, prices go up really high, and at the same time, no one's spending money, or at the very least, most people are not spending much money. And that's called stagflation. And they say that's like the worst possible economic uh, combination there could be. And that I think
yeah,
it hadn't happened in like decades. It's like a long time. And I don't know if that has something to do with like the Great Depression way back. Like, I don't know much about
yeah,
this stuff, but
yeah. So actually, um there's a difference between recession and depression. And so we actually talked, I mentioned a little bit during the beginning of the podcast that, recession, hopefully not being a depression, but
right,
a recession, what it is it's usually from anywhere from like 6 months to 18 months or maybe 2 years that it lasts, right? And so a recession is anytime that the market goes, lower than usual, right? But if it's going up, it's an expansion, right? But if it continues to recess for roughly about 10 years, that's when we call it a depression,
uh,
right? And so that's why, when there was that Great Depression, there was just what it was is a continued recession, right? And or what because it had a stagnation, like you were saying, like it
yeah,
was just like stagnant in that depression, in that recession state.
that's
And
what.
so and so that's usually what causes like big depressions. And so it's usually much longer in time. Usually people, like the rate of unemployment goes super high, right? I was looking at some statistics earlier, and usually unemployment during that time is like roughly about 25%, compared to a recession, which might be like an increase of about 5% of unemployment. So it's like a really
Yeah,
big hit.
that's a big deal.
Um, and so the value of things goes up sometimes, but more than likely it's harder to pay for things. And
Right.
so just because, you know sometimes like the cost of living versus how much it costs, or like how much one can earn, is it's not the same. And and that's why, I tie it back to education. Like what is worth, what schools are worth it. And you watch Jordan Peterson as well, and I mentioned this before, but he said in a video that, if it, like if his kids want to go to college, he'll advise them to go to a trade school.
Right.
And that's kind of crazy talk, like a
Yeah.
really renowned professor saying something like that, means that, that there's maybe not much ROI other than the experience that one gets to go to college nowadays. And
Yeah.
he did estimate that roughly about 50 to 70 years from now, colleges were going to cease to exist, um,
Unless they change something, yeah.
unless they transition and adapt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because doctors and lawyers, that's kind of like, I mean, it's not trade school, but it has a similar purpose in that it's a quick and fast, it's the fastest track, I guess you could say, towards a solid practical career that's actually gonna pay off.
yeah,
So that's, yeah.
yeah,
But all the other college degrees are gonna probably go out the window if these problems continue, because people are gonna wake up and realize that these degrees they thought were worth it are really are just going to hurt them so much financially, because we have so many a new generation of people for the first time. College is such a big thing that we have whole generations of college goers, and they're realizing how much of a financial burden it was.
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And to your point, these college degrees, that are going to be worth it are STEM related. And when I worked in the university, I would just see it. People didn't want to go into the humanities because the ROI of getting a degree that was just very general, very vague, abstract was sometimes not worth it for some people. They just knew that, I have to do something practical. STEM fields are always hiring, right? Engineers, you build something, you create something, you do something in the real world. And of course all these other degrees as well, just that, usually for those types of programs, it's just a little bit more vague on what you can do and where you can go. And sometimes like you said, the entry level positions are just, you know, not as great. And yeah, it's just, sometimes a little bit of seeing if it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes rough out there with so many loans that people have to get. And I think right now it's in the trillions, right, of how
It's
much
high.
people
Yeah.
own
Student
who
loans are
owe
getting
of
higher.
loans.
Actually, they're not getting lower. They're getting higher. The student loan debt crisis is not getting better.
And that's what might hit this time, because the recession during 2008, it was like mortgages, right? Banks were lending out money to homeowners, and they were giving more than what they should have, right? With like like really low interest rates. And that's what inflated the market. And and now it might be college loans. And this might be what kills the reputation of colleges,
Oh yeah, and it's
right? But
a ton of people not being able to pay them back. Like
yeah.
I've seen it a few.
Yeah, I mean, this could be it. I mean, I don't know, but I have a feeling that this could potentially be the tipping point for a lot of people to
Big,
really open their eyes to see what the real worth of college is
yeah,
in the real world.
something that people are no longer taking for granted and seeing it for in a different light. And some people go farther and farther than Jordan Peterson. And maybe Jordan Peterson said, I don't know. But some people go farther and say, college is just a scam altogether. And maybe some of that has some validity. I mean, for
Some
certain
schools.
things, for certain things, like a degree in knitting underwater, like that doesn't really have a practical job afterwards. So that kind of almost feels like a scam. You could interpret it that way. And what is a scam? It's something that, someone's trying to sell to you that, you're spending more cost. There's more cost than benefits for you compared to the person selling it to you. The person selling it to you is making a much more profit and benefits from it. And you, the person buying it, is actually spending more money, losing more money, or whatever it is with the scam, and you're not getting hardly any benefits, if any, from it. And underwater knitting, I'm sorry, it sounds very similar to that. Like, what benefits are you really getting from it compared to the cost you're paying for it? But like again,
Yeah.
like if you're rich and you can do it and money's not a big deal, that's go for it, man. Like do what you want to do. But for people who are struggling financially, like that's
Yeah,
problematic.
or thinking of climbing up, in the economic status, right? It's not something that's going to propel them up in any way,
Yeah.
unless they find a way to make you TikTok videos, and then they they become
Yeah.
sponsored by a brand.
Or
That's how a lot of people can sell it. There's always a way to sell something, right?
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, are a lot of people knowledgeable on making TikTok videos? Or like, who's going into your program? Are you going to be teaching that as well to make it profitable? Because if not, is it worth it, right? And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes there's also those schools that are for profit, and they uh, make you pay so much money, and then sometimes you can't pay, and then you want to transfer those credits into a nonprofit college, and you can't because those were for-profit credits, and so they can't accept them.
That's for
That I would see that all the time when I was working over there. So it's just sometimes uh like And we need advisors. We need people who know. And sometimes, we do have good advisors that can help in the high school level. But even that, it's sometimes tough. It's sometimes difficult to see the ROI on some programs and some colleges, right? Just because of the nature of what they stand for, right? And sometimes college advisors can only do so much to help people, but they can still be caught in the system, and somebody talks to them pretty and gets them to sign on. And honestly, like, I do think, like, one of the things that I'm doing right now in preparation, actually a little bit for the recession, just because about a year ago, or earlier this year, I felt like something like big was gonna happen. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just like some spider senses or what.
Mm.
But I was telling my girlfriend, I was like, hey, I feel like in 3 years there's just going to be something that's gonna like hurt the world. Like, it's gonna be big. Maybe just the country, but. And so I was telling her, and I was like, I'm gonna start looking at trade jobs or trade programs that I can do, um, because I was really thinking about getting a master's, but I was I started looking at jobs and how much you could get with a master's, and it was only gonna be maybe like a $5,000 to $10,000 increase once you get your master's. And so it was like two years of experience, and so 2 more years of studying. And so I was looking at other trade positions, and it's crazy because sometimes you can, if you have the right contacts, if you have the right contacts and the people, you could come out off of a 1 year or 2 year degree and be making almost six figures. Uh, and that's crazy. I mean, of course, you need to have maybe your parents own a trade business, or maybe you get hired on by the military or something. But it's kind of crazy that trade jobs have such a powerful way of increasing your income capacity, right? Because these trades, you can also turn them into businesses, right? And that's the really cool thing about those. You get experience. It's usually hands-on, right? So it's very practical, and it takes less time. You don't have to go through the core curriculum of taking additional blow up classes, right? And so it saves you time. And then you have a potential to earn a lot more, right? And I'm not saying people are going to become millionaires. Potentially they could, but it just seems like a better off option to do faster, right? To provide faster for yourself, for your family. And so it's easier to transition into the job field through a trade rather than a degree, college degree.
Yeah.
um
I think a lot
and
of people
and
don't realize that, you know?
yeah.
Like, a lot of people have the assumption that, college degrees just stereotypically, you make more money than going to trade school, right? But then that's not always the case for every college degree. It depends on the college degree you get.
Yeah.
And some trade school jobs get you more money than you would get with a certain college degrees. And so
Yeah.
that really depends on what you do.
Yeah, and these trade jobs are always needed, right? So these trade jobs are usually like in the health field, in the automotive field, in the construction field. And if you think about it, these are the only like jobs, or like, of course, a lot of jobs transition to remote, right? So you can work remotely, but a lot of these jobs were the only ones that were essential, right? They call them essential, right? People still need air conditioning, people still need electricity, people still need healthcare. So these provide for the basic needs, right? People still need transportation, so people need to have mechanics out there helping people move and have food move from one place to another. So these are things that continue to withstand like recession or pandemic. They're always needed, right? And so it's harder to think about the idea of losing one's job just because it's always going to be there in a way, right? That's one of the things that I started noticing a lot and I talked to a lot of trade schools while I was looking at different programs, and they would all tell me, they were like, yeah, during the pandemic, our programs actually increased because
Oh,
people realized
yeah,
that that trade jobs are sometimes faster to get, and also they're essential,
yeah.
right?
Sounds.
And that's actually so crazy, right? So crazy. um because to think that you get a degree and then it's not essential, and then somebody lays you off of your job, and what do you do,
Yeah, what's
right?
yeah,
Where do you go? And
yeah, that's
so
trouble.
I think it's cool to have a college degree that's maybe not as practical, but if it's only good if you have other ways to provide or other ways to make income, because if it's the only source of income, then it might be a little bit harder to
Yeah,
withstand like time, right? And
that's
so
true.
one can prepare their tool belt and with experience to provide.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's so many things that we could continue getting into.
Yeah, what do you, like, do you think, I don't know, like, do you think, uh, PhDs are gonna become obsolete? I mean, maybe I don't know if they are, but like, I don't know.
You know what? And I actually thought about getting a master's and a PhD in spirituality.
Yeah, I remember you
Uh,
were talking about
I was telling you, right?
that.
And the highest I could get paid probably in that field would potentially be about $80,000 a year with a PhD
Yeah,
degree. If you think about that, that's not that much of a difference, right? Maybe it seems a lot right now, right? It's like 80,000, but then you think about all the years, it's like, whoa. And then all you have, and of course, once you pass through the master's program, PhD programs, most of them are, like you said, paid for. But by that time that you get your master's, it's already, a couple thousand more in debt, right? And so
yeah,
it's like, is it practical? Do people need it? And people do need spirituality, but they'll rather go to their pastor or their priest. And so unless you're a pastor or a priest, maybe you won't have any work. But
yeah. It makes you wonder.
that those are things that I was thinking about. And it's like, well, we do need people who are learning. We do need people who are studying, but at the same time, it doesn't seem much very practical. And even though I would love to do it for the passion that I have of the topics and just the love I have for learning, I just feel like I rather just learn it on my own and just look at books, maybe look at the curriculum and buy those books and just self teach it to myself. I
Yeah,
think
that's
we live in a world where online teaching has become so prominent that if you want to learn how to fix something or you want to learn how to do something, you just go on YouTube and you can see somebody walk you through the steps on doing a website or doing
and that's
a video.
that's
And
a realization I started coming to, like, when we were in college, and I remember, like, we're in the library at St. Mary's, and I was telling you, like, you can there's so many books in here that you can check out for free, and you can teach yourself anything if you really put your mind to it. These are college level books, and you can do the same thing in the real world. You can go to the local library, or you can, buy books, online or something. And if you wanted to, you could teach yourself physics. You could teach yourself any subject that you want if you put forth the effort. Because what is most college classes? Most of them are based on textbooks that you buy for the class, and they teach from the textbook. Now, I'm not saying it's always exactly like that, but there most of the time it's pretty much similar. Now, the professor does do a lot of filling in the gaps and expanding on the information for certain classes, but maybe not for every single one. Like for certain classes, you could just study the textbook and it'd be like the same thing as taking the class, to a certain degree. And of course, with STEM majors, of course, you have to have labs that build the practical skills, that too. So that's not something you can get from a book always. But you can teach yourself things. So it's like, why? Like if the only reason is to because you're passionate about learning something and then there's no practical use of the college degree, then why not just get the textbook and teach yourself?
Yeah.
And
and
then,
and and I think what colleges have done, and it's been really smart from their part, has been to create accreditations, or I can't pronounce it correctly, um,
yeah,
to kind of justify themselves, or justify their program, justify the quality that you get from the program. And I
right.
think what that does is that, you know like, for example, students who want to go into the medical field, they have to go through get their bachelor's, and they have to go through getting their their um their, what you call, their like essential like things to transition into their specific field of study.
Yeah,
If they want to be a dentist or whatever, then they have to take the test, and
right.
then they take more schooling. And so it's almost like, they the only way to go into that job or profession, you have to go to school. It's
Yeah,
like you
that's
have
what
to,
it
and
is.
the schools in the hospitals require that.
Yeah,
And
you
so
have
it's
to
not
do
like you
your
can
job.
go watch a YouTube video, or watch a course on um how to become a doctor, and then you can become a
Yes,
doctor.
for those
But a
jobs.
lot of people can go watch a YouTube video and learn how to make a website and then sell websites. And so
And that's the thing, and that's what I mean. Like, for those jobs you can because you have to have licenses and certifications, which depend on college degrees. But I mean, like for the spirituality thing you're talking about, like, you could probably learn a lot of that on your own. And if you knew, like, let's say you had a list of all the classes for that master's degree that in spirituality, and then you can get all the textbooks from those classes, and then you could just read them on your own and teach yourself and study it on your own. Now there's no one else to hold you accountable except for yourself. But if you really take it seriously, then you could possibly learn, like, I don't know, like you could probably maybe learn the same, I don't know if the same thing, but you could teach yourself a lot about that passion that you have. And you don't have
mhm,
to go to college to do that. Unless you want a job in it, but we already kind of talked about like that wouldn't get very good jobs. So like if that passion for it is still there, you could still teach yourself.
yeah.
And
Yeah, exactly. If the passion's still there, you'll still seek ways to rent out books on the public library, or you watch YouTube videos on experts
and
who are very knowledgeable.
people get so caught up in like just having the degree for the sake of the title, for like, oh, I have a master's degree in spirituality, or oh, I have a master's degree in this subject, or PhD in this. But then it's like if you're only getting it for the title and you're
For the
only
paper. Yeah.
for the paper, and that's the only reason. There's no practical use for it, and maybe you're curious and did it for fun. But if that the only end of the day, the only reason is to get that title, then it's really a deeper question of what purpose is that when you could just study it on your own? Like, is it pride? Is it pride? Like,
Yeah.
is the only
It's kind of crazy, because I was talking to my barber the other day, and she was telling me she has 5 different degrees,
oh
and
yeah.
she's a barber. It's
Whoa.
like it's like
What are you doing? Why not
and I was telling her, like, why are you a barber? And she's like, well, I make more money, I make my own schedule, I have a family, so I can work around it. And then also, they don't pay me as much, and this is something I can do part-time, and I could be making almost like making basically a full-time income working part-time. And I was just like,
that's crazy. A barber makes more money and she has multiple master's degrees. Isn't that insane?
dude, it's so crazy, man. I'm just like so blown away by that. And I mean, I live it myself. I got my bachelor's degree, and I'm working with my balloon art business, and it's providing, it's providing, and I just work weekends, and it's providing more than what I made full time, 40 hours. And so
It's
it's
kind of
just crazy. It's really crazy.
yeah, it makes you think, it really does. And yeah, and I think and I hopefully the audience will get some lessons or ideas.
Hopefully get inspired, yeah, and maybe start looking at ROI of things, and see what's practical, right? I think those were resounding themes of our talk: just practicality, ROI, really hands-on, and then experience was another one. Like, where are you getting your experience? Yeah. Anything else that you thought was like a resounding theme?
I mean, I've often had that thought. Like, I want to get several degrees in several different subjects, and then I keep coming back to the question now of like, but why do I want to have multiple degrees? Is it just to have the titles, just for pride, for to just say that I have these degrees to impress people? Like, what's the reason? And
And one of the things I think about too is like overqualification.
oh yeah,
Well, you might find this funny, but one of my friends, she works at a I think it's like an elementary, and they were hiring for a Spanish or like after school program teacher, right? And they had she was telling me they had a person with a degree in child development, master's in child development. They had another candidate who was like a PhD level candidate. And then they had a lady who was bilingual, and she taught at her local church, like catechism classes. Guess who got the job?
catechism classes.
Exactly. And the reason why she got it was because she was bilingual, right? And the other candidates weren't. And also, um, she got it because they knew that they were gonna be able to pay her enough. And the other candidates, the job position, they wouldn't be able to pay them as much. You know
Wow,
what I'm saying? A lot of job applications are now actually requiring you to put either a range or an actual
I've
amount
seen
of
that.
how much you want to earn per year.
Yeah,
And it's almost very tempting to say like, oh well, I want to ask for slightly more,
yeah,
but don't
exactly.
want to like push them too much,
Yep.
and so puts you on an iffy spot, right? But uh, it's something that it's so crazy, right? Like people that have a degree but get chosen over somebody else just because they were overqualified.
That reminds me of something that I heard recently because I heard that some people who get a degree, an associate's degree in physics, will actually get better jobs with higher incomes than if they were get a PhD in physics. They said that they actually wouldn't be their job offers for the associate's degree in physics would be rejected. They wouldn't be able to get those jobs with a higher income for physics if they had a PhD in physics because the PhD would overqualify them for those jobs. Now that doesn't even almost make sense. It's like you think a PhD in physics would get you more money, but it turns out even if you went farther and got a PhD in physics, that could actually cause you more harm than good. It could actually prevent you from jobs you could jobs with higher money that you could get with an associate's degree in physics. It's just it almost doesn't even it seems like it's backwards. Like why would
Yeah,
a job not hire someone because they're overqualified because they have a PhD in physics and they should have an associate's degree instead? Like it doesn't make sense, but
yeah.
uh yeah.
And it might be also that, what once you get into the upper level physics, then you know almost like companies want to prepare you. They want to educate themselves, right? And then if you already learned like the other topics, then they have to retrain you from scratch, right? And so and you would have to start from a lower income bracket, and they rather take you from associates rather than physics or like a PhD, because it would have to be like retraining your brain, maybe. And
um,
so I don't know if they just noticed that it would take longer, or what
I
they
don't know.
capture from that. But it's
I
an
don't
interesting topic though. Like that's kind of crazy that they make more as with associates than PhDs.
Yeah, I don't know. That kind of blew my mind. Yeah, it's kind of
Wow.
scary when you think about it, because then you're like, now you're really thinking like, is a PhD worth it? Because if I could get more money by not getting a PhD, like that really makes you think like, what's
Yeah.
on here?
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of programs are free now, because like people see it and they're like, well, it's actually not worth getting a PhD. like you said, maybe it's even contradictory, right? It would go against your potential.
Yeah,
It's so
that
crazy.
just discourages everyone to get a PhD in physics because they're like, if I just have to get an associate's in physics and getting a PhD in physics would actually cause me more harm than good, why would I want to go get a PhD? I'll just settle for this associate's and get a higher paying job. And then there's like it's like it becomes a threat, like getting a PhD in physics becomes a threat because then if you do that, you'll get paid less money than if you weren't. And it just, I just think it's backwards. I think that that's kind of silly, and it really it makes you question. I don't know, just
And
because I was
sometimes,
like
like,
always
I
thinking
guess
like I
what,
want to get a PhD, and now I'm like I don't know, like
yeah. And sometimes, like, I wonder if people might do this, but just do the classes just cause without for no credit, you
yeah,
know?
that would be the kind of that would be me. I would be if I was rich. I would be taking just college classes for fun right now. Honestly, I would. That's how I'd be spending my time. That's how I'd rather spend my time. Honestly,
Yeah.
just learning and going to college. But the reality is that we have to make money. We have to pay bills, and and there's student debt. So like, but who knows? Maybe someday I'll become wealthy, son. And then
Yeah.
joking, but if I ever became wealthy, that's probably what I would spend my time doing is just going to college for fun because I love learning. And the only thing holding me back is just financial stuff. So yeah, I mean it's a lot to think about. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good though.
Wow. That was a good thought though. Like, being overqualified, you would never think that that could be a factor that could affect you, but
I never thought so either. Yeah.
it's it's a weird reality. And so so yeah, I mean, yeah. Do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing I can really think of. We
Yeah.
dove in deep and went to a lot of different topics. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching today and listening to this podcast. We really always appreciate your time. Let us know what you think about education. Have you experienced any situations in your life where education has played a big role, or maybe it hasn't, and you thought maybe it was a waste of time, or let us know down below in the comment section. We really like to know what you think the college system should be doing, maybe where it's heading, and what type of education people should be receiving nowadays to really upscale their potential of earning, or maybe potential of just overall life success. And so if you have any questions, please let us know down below in the comments. And always we invite you to subscribe to our channel so that you can continue receiving amazing content every week. So until next time, we will talk to you soon. Take care.